In the world of global business right now, there's this quiet but incredibly important battle being fought over a single word. And how a company defines this one word, well, it determines everything it has to reveal about its impact on the world. It's actually creating two completely different rulebooks for corporations, and today we're going to get to the bottom of why that is.
So if I asked you, what's the one word that's really defining the future of corporate transparency, you might think of words like profit or growth, maybe even innovation. And yeah, those are all super important. But the word that's causing this huge split in the business world, it's something else entirely.
That word is materiality. I know, it might not sound all that exciting, but trust me, how a company defines it dictates everything it has to disclose about its environmental and social performance. And right now, its definition is smack dab in the middle of a massive global shift.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about why this word is such a big deal. Then we're going to look at the two competing definitions, the first lens, financial materiality, and the second, double materiality. We'll see how they're creating this huge reporting divide, and then finally, we'll get into what this all means for any global business trying to operate today. Okay, so the most crucial thing to get is this. Materiality is basically the threshold for disclosure. If some piece of information is considered material, a company absolutely has to report it. The problem is, different rulebooks are setting that threshold in very different places. It's like they're creating two parallel universes for corporate reporting. All right, let's start with the traditional approach. This is the one that's dominated financial reporting for decades. It's all about financial materiality, and its focus is laser-sharp on one specific group of people, the investors. This definition comes from the big global standard setter, the IFRS, and the language they use is incredibly precise. Information is material only if it could influence the decisions of what they call primary users, and they define those users very narrowly as investors, lenders, and creditors. So really, the only question that matters is, does this affect their financial decisions? So what this really boils down to is protecting the company's value, its enterprise value. It asks how the outside world, things like climate change or new regulations, could impact the company's bottom line. You can think of it as an outside-in perspective. How do all these external factors affect the company's finances? Now, let's switch gears and look at the second lens. This is a new, much broader perspective that's really taking hold, especially in Europe. It's called double materiality, and it dramatically expands the definition of who and what really counts. So under the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, or ESRS, the definition kind of splits in two. A topic can be material from a financial perspective, just like we just saw, but, and this is the crucial part, it can also be material from an impact perspective. This right here is the game changer. This just blows the audience wide open. We go from just investors to all stakeholders, employees, customers, the communities where a company operates. So the question becomes twofold. It keeps that outside-in view, how does the world affect the company, but it adds a brand new inside-out view. How do the company's own operations impact the world? It really is a full 360-degree perspective. So now we have these two really powerful but competing ideas about what truly matters. Let's put them side by side so we can really see the differences clearly. This is the great reporting divide in a nutshell.
Here it is, the split, in the simplest terms. On the left, you've got the global baseline, which focuses purely on investors and financial value. This is what we call single materiality. But in contrast, over on the right, you have the European approach using double materiality, which considers all stakeholders and looks at both financial and societal impacts. It's the exact same word, but it creates two totally different reporting worlds.
Now, it's really important to understand the philosophy of the global standard setter here. Their goal isn't to say that societal impacts don't matter, not at all. Instead, what they're trying to do is create a consistent universal baseline that's focused only on what investors need to know. Think of it as the foundational building block that everyone, everywhere can use.
And from there, different jurisdictions can build on top of that baseline. And that's exactly what Europe has done. The ESRS basically says, yep, we'll take that financial baseline for investors, thanks. But we're also adding a mandatory second layer. You must report on your impact on the world, whether it directly affects your profits today or not.
So why should this matter to you? Well, if you're trying to run a multinational company, you now have to navigate this completely fractured reporting landscape. You're essentially playing by two different sets of rules at the exact same time. The practical implications here are just huge. A global company now has to literally map out which rules apply in which countries. And what that often means is they have to run two separate analyses, one looking at financial risk for investors and a second, much broader analysis on societal impact for regulators over in Europe. And behind all of that, they need to build data systems capable of serving two very different masters.
And this isn't just some compliance headache, It's a core strategic issue. Figuring out what is and isn't material is now absolutely fundamental to good management, to good governance, and even to investment strategy. The stakes for getting this right are incredibly high.
And that really leaves us with the core question for the future of business, doesn't it? Are we heading for a world with two different corporate truths, one that's just for investors and another one for the rest of society? Or will these two lenses eventually merge as we recognize that a company's impact on the world and its long-term financial value are really just two sides of the same coin? That is the challenge that this one simple word, materiality, presents to all of us. Thanks for joining this explainer.